2013, and also thousands of people on the intelligence services watch list up and down the country. Now, in a population of 60 million, that's not a lot, but it's an awful lot of people who are inspired by this. Anne-Marie, do you want to come back on what he was saying? Because I saw you...
Just say, look, I'm happy that terror attacks have been prevented, and I hope that we see no terror attacks from any cause or any group ever again. But today's discussion is really about whether these terror attacks or the terrorists should be given the oxygen of publicity. And publicity or infamy is its own form of celebrity, and we don't want to give these terror attacks the celebrity they don't enjoy. They should not enjoy.
I'm going to speak to in a minute, Peter, about the IRA and as well, and your coverage of that and our coverage of IRA atrocities in the past. But Anne-Marie,
what's the alternative to the oxygen of publicity? I mean, are we expected to ignore these things altogether? What is it we're actually looking for here? I don't think we're giving it the correct coverage at all. I mean, Douglas described it as a single terror act. In London, yes, but how many terror attacks have there been across Europe in the last couple of years? And what have they got in common? And with this, can we not use our common sense and sit down and look at the religion that is possibly driving this? Why are, and let me ask, when the IRA were doing what they did everyone scramble to find an excuse? They were criminals, they were involved in drug abuse, they were mentally ill, or did they accept that they were Irish Republicans with an Irish Republican aim?
Why can't we do the same?
Yeah. And if there's no problem with Islamic scripture inspiring this, then let's look at it. Why aren't we looking at it? Why is it? If it's not Islamic scripture, then we have no problem.
Wait a minute, Zaba's going to come back on that. But surely the point is, you establish the facts, you get the facts right, you infer from the facts what may have happened, then you report what did happen.
That's all. That's what I'm asking for, but I don't think that's.
You're saying we should start with conclusions.
No, I'm not. I'm saying we want the truth. We want the truth. We want to, and I want religious fervour to be included in the list of reasons that made this man Muslim.
You were looking like you weren't agreeing with that.
I agree to parts, but not all of it. Okay, so when you speak about journalism and accuracy, of course, and we all want the truth. It's not just you. It's me.
We all want the truth.
Okay, so let me tell you for myself, and I can speak on behalf of perhaps 99% of the British Muslim public, that generally none of us know the motives behind people who carry out these acts. I myself am very much part of this society. I'm born and raised a Londoner. I'm an observant Muslim, and you don't see somebody like me carrying out these acts inspired by my faith. Therefore, I'm not saying, I'm not, and people are analysing scripture. It's not whether it's the Quran or the biblical scripture. I mean, you seem to be quite hung up on the fact that this is a Quranic scriptural point.
Scriptures are open to interpretation, and literally.
Why are we bringing scripture into this? If they're not quoting scripture,
because a lot of them quote the verses that say, "Find the infidels, root them out, and kill them." Douglas wanted to come in.
This is a great example of it right here. This Anne Lucy thinks that none of the terrorists ever quote the Quran. Flat out wrong. Flat out wrong. Let me give you one example. You mentioned it earlier, the killers of Lee Rigby. Michael Adebolajo, on his body, when the police arrested him, he had a note in his pocket, his young daughter, explaining why he did what he did. It's all on the public record. You can see the facsimile on the BBC's website, and he has footnotes throughout it of Quranic verses that he explains justify, in his view, his actions. Now, that's the beginning. Everyone's talking about the proselytization begins, okay? Let me just finish my point. That would seem to me to be, therefore, a very clear occasion, never mind the thousands of others we could list worldwide, a very clear occasion on this country when one of our soldiers was murdered on our streets, where clearly scripture had something to do with it. So the problem that a lot of us have is we are willing to discuss the drugs bit, we're willing to discuss the foreign policy bit, we're willing to discuss all this. Why are you not willing to concede that there is a religious element? Sometimes.
No, wait.
Mohammed first. Now, listen, here's my plan. Wait a minute, everyone's... No, here's the other fair shot. Here's my plan. I'm going to speak to Peter in a minute. I'm going to take it to what happened in Ireland over
But
the
just
period
there's
of
one
trouble.
point
And
that's
I'm going to
significant
let
to
you.
this.
I don't want to make it theological.
No, it's not theological. The one point that hasn't been mentioned that is absolutely relevant to all of this is the radicalization of people in prisons. I have seen people that don't practice come out of prison as red hot radicals.
I'm sure you've seen people who come out of prison as converts and you celebrate their conversion as well. I mean, it can clearly go either way.
The point here is what is happening. We put them into a state institution that should be a safe zone. They are coming out as, ISIS recruits.
Manjan Chaudhry has had to be separated from the other prisoners so that he doesn't...
so what I'm suggesting here is this particular person could have been radicalized in prison.
Peter Bush, Peter, in a minute, we haven't heard from Peter Bush. Good morning to you. Good morning. Welcome. What do you think, Peter, of the coverage of this? Department of War Studies, King's College London. Do you agree it was important over the days to hear the human stories, to hear the human tragedies, to hear the stories of heroism? And that's what unfolded in the newspapers, apart from the analysis. Was that right, the way this has been covered?
That part was certainly right, to tell both sides of the story, to get as rounded a view as possible. But where you have to be careful, I think, also when we listen to the discussion here so far, is when you think about oxygen of publicity, part and parcel of the idea of terrorism, what is really behind is this attention-seeking, to affect more people with this act of violence than the people who were actually there at this particular part of London. And when you then talk about media coverage and what you cover and how you cover it, you have to be careful not to follow some sort of script that seems to be written by the act of violence itself. So it's not just the media reaction, but it's also those people who are given voice in the media, who talk, who want to talk in the media, be it from a political point of view, or be it the politicians in general. For example, clearly something that many people would call a symbolic act or symbolic place was attacked. But we decide whether this place is symbolic. So Parliament, do we say this was an act of terrorism against democracy? But that's our decision. So our reaction is very important in this case. It could have happened in Epping Forest or something like this. Would we have reacted the same way? But this is the choice this perpetrator of the act did. And we have to step back, I think, and think about it and make the decision, do we want to follow a certain script that this person wants us to follow? So we talk about an attack on us all and so on and so forth. Or do we try to stick with the facts? Do we try to stick with the simple story, try to unravel what is behind it, and then draw
Well, social media has changed the game. Peter, talking about, and more contributions, please, from the audience in just a second. It's changed the game, social media, but in Northern Ireland, I remember, I've spoken to you about this before, you followed Jerry Adams around America, didn't you? At every press conference, Jerry Adams gave you his worst nightmare, asking...
Nicest thing you've ever said.
There was Peter Hitchens at the back, and you can see Mr. Adams saying, oh, of course, it's him again. So you were... The thing is that we had that period, didn't we, when Mrs. Thatcher said, do not give them the oxygen of publicity. And we had the ludicrous situation when actors' voices were dubbing the voices of Mr. McGuinness and Mr. Adams, occasionally, subvertively, as I know from a producer at the time, leaving in a cough that belonged to Mr. Adams. This, I mean, it was a good job for the actors, but it was a ludicrous situation.
No, it was futile, and it illustrates the great difficulty of what one does about this. One of the major French newspapers, Le Monde, tried to stop using the names of these perpetrators and was turned on by most of the rest of the French media for failing to take the thing seriously. I think we all have a difficulty. We can't ignore this stuff. We have to give it an awful lot of coverage because it is a big event. The question is how we cover it and whether we cover it intelligently or not. Here's another thing, this discussion we've just been having about what's in the minds of these people. I speak as a former fanatic. I was a Trotskyist in my teens and 20s. My mind was full of utopian, violent garbage. I didn't kill anybody. The gap between being a fanatic and being a killer is very considerable. And I think that what we're not really investigating is this. And you turn to Ireland and you look at someone like Martin McGuinness. Well, what he did personally, we don't know, but he certainly ordered large numbers of deaths. Now, what actually happens to someone to make him want to do that? The roots of fanaticism are not just simply a matter of belief; they're a matter of believing so strongly that what you think is right that you can kill, or in some cases, they're a matter of being so disinhibited by the collapse of your reason that you will do very violent things. The difficulty here is in telling which is which. There's no question that Islam and Islamic fanaticism has been involved in a lot of terrorist acts. The 7th of July events, the September the 11th events, beyond all doubt. Sure. But that doesn't mean that all these events have to be fitted into that.
Do you celebrate, Rabbi Ramin, do you celebrate the peacemaker Martin McGuinness?
I celebrate that he changed, and I don't think the British authorities gave in to the IRA. I think the IRA actually gave in to the rule of law and justice and institutions. But I think the key word here...
Who pulled out their troops?
Hang on.
Who dismantled their intelligence system? Who disbanded the RUC? Who kept their weapons? Whose prisoners were released?
Who
the IRA won.
Okay, thank you.
Rabbi Ramin.